I will ask around. Because I'm sure they get that question.
Good morning. Welcome to the first 2024 Tech Club member meeting. Today is January 10th. Yay! And welcome you here. We have a special topic today with our favorite speaker, who's always been so reliable and dependable and better. And before we begin, I just want to check in, make sure you know I'm Dr. Lee, President, and Larry Schreier, Vice President. He's in charge of the tech team that actually handles all the tech. And Liz Perry, our treasurer, and Linda Wire, our secretary. So together we are your board, and we're here to help you with information as much as possible. Next month, we will be having a speaker talk about cutting the cable. Some of you may have already done that, or you may be interested in options for doing that. But for right now, I'd like to ask Larry, do you have any updates on the lab, or?
I do not.
He does not, okay. That means everything's in working order. Everything's going well, thanks to the tech team. And so without further ado, I'd like to introduce Tony Burja from Watermark University. You probably have seen him before, and just yesterday I sent my daughter money with Venmo, so it's a timely topic.
Thank you so much. So glad to be back. Yes, so I hope I don't scare you guys today, because these, I was too scared to use these apps for years and years and years. My wife used them for things. And then just in the last couple of years, I've started to use them a little bit, and that's just because of the demand of other folks around me to utilize them. But the main focus is going to be like sending money to people you know, or maybe people you don't know, as opposed to maybe talking about paying for dealing bops and stuff like that. All right, so the subject is, we're calling them peer-to-peer payment apps. So peer-to-peer being, you have a peer, or that's also sometimes what they call, your system's talking to their system. So it's going straight from one system to the other system. It's not kind of going out to somebody else first and then coming back. So you're going straight between the two. So we're talking about primarily sending stuff and receiving stuff on your phone. All right, give me another slide, Larry. All right, so first I'd like to always start off with a joke, as you guys know. And this might not be proper grammar. We talked about peer-to-peer. I'm using the other peer in this joke, okay? Do you know what one peer said to the other peer?
No.
Nothing much, but there's always lots of waves between them. Oh boy. These ones were tough for me this time. I did my best. All right, what we got next? All right, so we want to talk about understanding what peer-to-peer apps are. So I kind of mentioned them a little bit before, but the definition, sometimes you see this also, P2P, that's peer-to-peer. P2P, they're payment apps that allow individuals to transfer money directly to one another using their smartphone. So like Kata just mentioned, she just sent her daughter money, and it went straight from Kata to her daughter, boom. It was practically instantaneous. All right, so the key thing for these apps, and this is really, in my personal opinion, the only real benefit to using these apps is the pure convenience and simplicity of them. So it's super simple to get money from like my bank account to somebody else's bank account by using these applications. That's really, in my eyes, the only real benefit is the speed and convenience at which you can just pull it out, type in what you want, and send it over, and it's done. As opposed to, maybe you had to go, oh, where's my wallet? You got to find your wallet. You got to go in, you got to make sure you have enough cash. Oh no, I got to run to the ATM, whatever, and then you got to pay whoever it is. So that has a lot more steps to it than maybe using these applications. And then, we do checks, things like that, but that's going to take them, forever to get to the bank, to deposit it, to get it in there. So that's really the benefit of these, is the convenience. If somebody wants to be paid right now and know that they have the money right now, that's when you maybe explore using these apps. All right, go ahead, Larry. All right, so the popular apps that I'm going to touch on today: Venmo, PayPal, Cash App, Zelle. I'm going to touch a little bit also on Apple Cash. So these are all different applications that you can use to send money to people. You're finding more and more that people who have like their own personal business for arts and crafts, or for landscaping, or for art and things like that, they're using these apps as how they want to be paid. You know, you'll have a landscaper that you'll hire and he'll say, yeah, just, use Zelle and send me $50 or whatever that will be. So you'll find that a lot of these smaller businesses are able to be able to accept payment easier for people who want to use credit cards or whatever without, having too much complicated business stuff they have to set up. All right, go ahead. All right. So I do want to mention, a lot of these photos are AI generated, this one included. So I thought these were pretty neat. There's an interesting anecdote on the next one I'll mention, since I mentioned the AI to it. They're not perfect, let's just say that. So anyhow, so the pros to peer-to-peer payments are the convenience, like I talked about. Some of these apps offer an easy way to split the bill. So let's say you go to a restaurant and there's a group of friends and they all just want to split it evenly. You can just type in who your friends are at dinner, what the total of the bill was, and it sends a request to all of them to pay you, and then they just hit okay, and then boom, it sends the money to you and it's done. And that's pretty simple. We've all probably been splitting checks for a while, so it's not that complicated, but kids nowadays, then there's also security features to them. Every single one of them has some form of encryption, and most of them, if not all of them, I believe, have the multi-factor authentication, which I've talked about here previously, but these are just different ways to keep things really secure for you. They do a really good job at that. And then the last thing is really that transaction speed, like I said. With the majority of it, it's done like that. You hit the button, and they're going, oh, just got it. It's like as fast as a text message or sending a picture to them. All right, go ahead. All right, so there are some cons. This is the AI picture I was talking about. You guys notice anything funny about this particular picture? First off, these aren't really like words. AI doesn't do that great with actual words. I said, give me a picture of a guy who's frustrated with his application about fees. Because one of the cons to peer-to-peer payment apps is there's sometimes fees. Sometimes they're going to charge you for that convenience. You want it right now, it's going to cost you 3%. That kind of thing. Another thing that's pretty interesting here is he kind of has a finger on his foot.
Yeah.
That was pretty funny. But anyhow, so the other cons to peer-to-peer payment apps is the learning curve. Every single one is a little bit different. And so if my landscaper uses Zelle, but my gal that I get my jewelry from uses Venmo, and then this person uses Cash App, and you're gonna get all these different apps because that's what that person likes to use, And then you gotta learn the user interface for that one and all this other stuff. So that's one drawback. The other one are the privacy concerns, and we'll touch on that with one of the apps at least. But obviously every time your stuff is out there in the internet somewhere, there's always a concern there. We talked a little bit about the fees, and then the last one, kind of that limited acceptance. Oh, I don't do Zelle, I do Venmo. So you're gonna have to use that. So you have to download a whole new app, get a whole new program, put your bank account information in. Oh, that's why I never use it. But anyhow, all right, let's go to the next one. All right, so tips before you start. The first one, to kind of qualm that, the learning curve, get some assistance with setup. Another AI image, he's helping him out. He's like, hey, you want me to help you with that? He's like, yeah, now they're both happy because he helped him out. All right, then there's security awareness. So being aware of, there's scams with these things. You can request money from someone, and sometimes people will request money from you, and you'll say, no, I don't know you. And then they'll request it from you, and you'll say no, and they'll request it from you. And they're just banking on the fact that maybe one time your finger's gonna hit yes, and then it's instantaneous, your money's gone. And so they're kind of banking on that. So there are security things to be worried about with these applications as well. And then the last thing to be aware of is those fees. Which ones have fees, which ones don't? What are the fees for? Are the fees actually a good thing in some cases? Maybe, who knows? All right, let's go to the next slide. All right, so we're gonna touch first on Venmo, and this one I thought was the most interesting because I've never used it before. So I just had to do some research on it. So they listed some of these things as a pro. They said Venmo incorporates a social feed so that you can see what everybody else is doing in their transactions. And I was like, what? So it's not that you can see how much money they're doing, but I included a screenshot here that's a little hard to see from this distance, but it says Helen paid Peyton August's rent. So if you're friends with Helen, you'll know that she paid her rent. I don't know. They're trying to get the kids, I tell you. Because the kids want to know, oh, who paid for this? Who paid for that? Oh, and I don't know who would be interested in that, but that's a selling feature for them, but you know, whatever.
Excuse me.
Yeah, go ahead.
Well, I sent $50 to my nephew
Sure.
on Venmo.
Uh-huh.
So all his friends now know that it was his birthday.
Well, so,
So that's a positive in my view.
sure, that's true.
Okay, I didn't know it was your birthday, Dan. Maybe I'll send him some money too.
Absolutely. Yeah, and it can definitely be a benefit. And also, you know, if you're aware of that, that's on by default. You can turn it off. So if it's something that you do see as a benefit, you know, more power to you. This is the only app that I know of where you can see that. Ease of use, this was one of the earliest ones to kind of get out there and get started, so it is very simple to use. There's a button right here, pay or request. You push that, you put in the person's details that you want to send it to or receive it from, and then it's, you know, it's very, very minimal information you have to put in, how much money it is, how much, you know, whatever the thing is. Very, very easy to use. This is the one that has the bill splitting feature. So they call it Venmo Split. And I have a little graphic after this that we'll take a look at where they're like, oh, we all got money, we're all sending it all over the place. So, you know, if that's something you might see beneficial to you in some way, this might be the one for you. All right, the next one is, cons. You remember our social integration up here? Here's a con. Public transaction, there's a social feed. Oh, it's a positive and a negative. What are you gonna do? So it depends on what your interest is there and whether or not it's a good thing for you or a bad thing. And then the last one is, there are sometimes fees associated with card transactions. So there's different ways that you can get money on these apps. You can put in your bank account number and routing number, and they'll verify it's your account. And then you can just send money from your account, kind of like you would on a bill pay or something. You can also, if you don't want to give them your account number and your routing number, you can just put in your debit card information. And then they'll just charge your debit card, kind of like if you swipe it at a store. But if you do that with Venmo, there is going to be a fee of some kind. It'll be 1%, 2%, 3%, whatever it is, whatever their cup of tea is for that month. You know, there's going to be some sort of fee if you want to use that option. So that's something to look out for with Venmo. All right, let's go to the next slide real quick. This is their graphic for splitting the bill. So you can see this one says, this person with this hand sent out a request to split the bill, a new feature. And then this person says, oh, you have a split request, you have a split request, you have a split request, you have a split request. And Bonnie already responded. Bonnie paid you $24.13 to help with your split. You know, and now your account balance is XYZ. And then she also sent a little message, hey, I sent that money over. So all they had to do was hit a few buttons. And then, yeah, go ahead.
Do you want me to wait till the end to ask the question?
You can ask questions anytime.
So whoever you're sending this to, I mean, do you yourself first have to register on one of these? And the people you're dealing with have to register also?
Right, yeah. So that's kind of one of the barriers that we talked about is that limited adoption. Not everybody uses, I've never downloaded Venmo in my life. So if somebody says, let me send you money on Venmo, I'd say, okay, I have to create an account, I have to put in my information, and then you can send me stuff. So that's one drawback to the majority of these applications.
Tony, going back to the, you know, I'm looking at my transactions.
Sure.
Somebody with a snowbird wanted to pay, their tech fees.
Okay.
Okay, so I said, sure. They said, can I Venmo? I don't use PayPal. I
Mhm.
said, sure. So she tagged it as a good or service. So if she had just not tagged it, I would have gotten the $30, okay? She tagged it, so as the seller, you pay a 1.9%
Mhm.
plus 10-cent fee.
Yeah,
So we lost money on that.
yeah.
Yeah.
I got a
Yeah,
question
it was
back
a
here.
couple months back where I used Venmo, and they sent, just to remind you that if it's a business transaction,
Mhm.
they will charge you.
Right.
But if it's from friend to friend to
Right,
friend,
right.
family, So they distinguish between what's going to be charged and what's going to be free.
Right.
And when you sign up, you read all that.
Right.
It's very descriptive.
Yeah.
Well, a lot of people don't read it.
That's true.
But when I paid my high school reunion, she specifically said, do not tag this
Yeah.
as a fee of any type.
Right.
So
Right.
I wanna get the 80 bucks, I don't wanna pay any fees on it, so
Yeah.
you just
Yeah.
send it.
With the majority of these apps, they have options like that, to where you can say you're paying a business or you're doing something like that. And there's a couple things that does, and primarily, usually it charges some sort of fee. Might charge you tax, depending on what you're doing. And then, but sometimes what it also does, which we'll touch on when we get to PayPal, is it also gives you some sort of protections. And that's part of what their fees are for, is to offer you protections on that purchase that you're making. Yeah, but that's always something to look out for. That's something I call out a little bit later, is one of the main things you really wanna do, is if you're using any one of these apps, find out what their fees are before you send any sort of payments. And always brush up on it before you're sending it. If you haven't used it for a couple months, you're doing it again, make sure you know exactly what their fee structure looks like. Yeah, go ahead.
Are there dollar limits on what the apps will set into truth?
Yeah, a lot of them do have specific limits, and that's another thing you'll have to check kind of app to app. And some of them will be like, there's a limit on how much you can send in a particular month. Or some of them will be an individual transaction. You know, they're all governed by some sort of laws around this stuff as well. So a lot of it's probably gonna be very, very similar. But realistically, it's just a bunch of businesses who are trying to get us into their thing, and so they can beat somebody else's fee lower or whatever, you know. Just be really, really paying attention to what each thing is. All right, let's go to the next one, Larry. All right, so speaking of splitting the bill, I recently went to dinner with a group of friends, and we said, let's split the bill. And one of the gals was upset because she said, all I had was soup. And so I said, go ahead and hit another button there, Larry. I said, well, Susan, I wouldn't exactly consider 3 martinis soup. Just because there's an olive floating in it. All right, go to the next one. All right, so the next one's PayPal. And this one's one of those, the one where I really know about like the fees and the business transactions and things like that. PayPal's been around forever. Elon Musk was one of the founders originally back in the 90s with PayPal, and it got started with eBay as a secure way to send payments online before anybody had a smartphone. And so they got that off the ground and started. So it's because PayPal's been around so long, one of the major benefits to PayPal is it's very versatile because it's widely accepted all over the place. Everybody's familiar with PayPal and it's trusted because it's been around so long. So you're gonna have a lot more businesses that are familiar with PayPal. So you can put your credit card information in PayPal and send payments securely through them. You can get a credit on your account, and this is kind of the same case for all of them. You can just put the money onto your account that's separate from your bank account. You can put it in there kind of like a gift card balance. You put it in your Venmo money or your Apple Cash or your Cash App. You put money in the app and then it lives in the app. And then you can send that money to somebody else that way. So you can load a balance onto your PayPal account, kind of like almost like a gift card balance, but it's your own personal separate account from your bank or anything. And then you can send that money. Another good thing, because PayPal's been around so long and everybody's so familiar, you got international transactions. You can send stuff all over the world, which is not necessarily the case with a lot of these other kind of newer apps that have only been out a couple of years. And it's got a lot of really well-trusted security features. Those cons we're talking about, those fees, complex fee structure. There's a lot of different payments you can do and accept. Probably those international transfers are not going to be free. You know, you're going to have those. And then obviously as well, if you were marking it as a business transaction, then there's going to be a fee that the person who's selling it to you or the person who's receiving the money is going to have to pay. So you got to be looking out for that kind of stuff. All right, let's jump to the next slide there. So this is one thing I want to make sure everybody here is totally aware of. If you see something on Facebook or eBay, and the person says, send me money on PayPal. What I don't want you to do if you don't know the person is to say that you're sending it to a friend. they're gonna ask you to do that because it's just like we said, there's no fees for them if they do this. But also, if you do this, you're saying that this person is a friend or a family member of yours, and so PayPal could care less if you then have a dispute with how that money was handled. Let's say you send them the money and they never ship you the thing you ordered. PayPal doesn't really care because you said that was your friend or your family member, deal with them. That's PayPal's stance on that. Now, if you say you're paying for an item or a service, then the seller's gonna have a fee, probably between 1% and 3%. And the eligible items that you've now purchased are now covered by purchase protection. So if you order something from, I'm a huge model train fan, and I'm in a few Facebook groups for model trains. And there's a bunch of guys on there who go, don't order from this guy and pick friends and family because he never sent me the tracks I ordered or the engine I ordered or whatever it is. And everybody on there just immediately goes and ripping into this guy. Why did you pick friends and family if you didn't know him? He's like, oh, I was just trying to help him out. It was a hard time. Don't fall for their sob story if you don't know the person. Pick that you're paying for an item or a service because you're gonna have no protection. They're not gonna, if they don't send your thing, PayPal doesn't care, so you're gonna have to find some other sort of retribution. All right, let's go to the next one. All right, Cash App, another one I'm not super familiar with, but I know enough about. So Cash App has been around for a while and they're trying to get into everything. So Cash App, you can invest in cryptocurrencies, you can invest in stocks, you can get a debit card that they provide for you, so you get a whole account through them, and you can actually have a physical card that you swipe at the store instead of just sending money back and forth on the app. They got everything. So they're pros, they have a cash card, it's a physical debit card. So that way, you know, some people are more comfortable with actually having a card instead of using their phone. Then they have investment options, like I mentioned, and then they have boosts and discounts. So if you use that cash card that they gave you, if you go to Walgreens, we'll give you 3% cash back. You know, so that is a nice benefit for that kind of thing. This is really targeting those, kind of millennial age folks or Gen Z folks who are wanting to get into investing. I'm not gonna go to Wells Fargo. I wanna get an app on my phone and I'll buy some, Tesla stock or whatever's all hyped up recently. And so that's really what Cash App is targeting. The cons to they don't have as much international use like PayPal does. They're still pretty fresh. And with a lot of these ones, like I said, if you want to send that payment just like that, if you want it quick through Cash App, there's going to be some sort of fee most likely. It's going to be a fee that they're going to charge you. So really pay attention to what those fees are and what they might be. All right, let's go to the next slide. I have these are all the different pages on Cash App. So you have right here, you can pay someone or request money from someone. How much do you want to send? How much do you want to request? Then you can see they have a banking. So how much is on your cash card? What's your current balance? What's your routing number, your account number? You can just see it right on the app. Deposits and transfers history, purchase Bitcoins. You can link other bank accounts and things. So you can just transfer money into your Cash App account. And then over here, you have your stocks and investing. You can see where your money's going. I don't know how the graph went up if it's zero. What do I know? All right, let's go to the next one. All right, this one I know quite a bit about because I've been using Zelle for a while. So Zelle, I actually looked into it a lot before I started using it because the key thing with Zelle is that all of their transactions are right now. I can send, as long as I have somebody's phone number, even if you don't have Zelle, if I have your phone number, I can send you money on Zelle, and Zelle will hang on to it for you. They'll send you a text. They'll say, hey, Tony sent you some money, $35. All right? If you want to take this money out, you can log into Zelle, or you can just give us your bank account, and we'll deposit it in there for you. So that's really all you got to do. You can send, as long as you have their phone number. So Zelle was the banking industry's answer to all of these apps that started coming out. They're like, it's costly for them sometimes to send money all over the place. And since everybody else was capitalizing on sending money, they're like, well, let's do this ourselves. So Wells Fargo, Chase, Bank of America, US Bank, all of them got together and they're like, let's just make one app that, we will support. And we will, yeah, go ahead.
Does that mean you can transfer on Zelle from one bank account to the next?
Yes,
without a fee.
without a fee, you bet. I've done it myself. So the cool thing, so here's the thing with Zelle, they have direct banking integration. Maybe you guys have seen it on your bank's app. So like I use Vantage West, I use, 1AZ Credit Union, I use Pima Federal Credit Union. And I believe on all of those, they have a separate section that says, transfer money. You can transfer between your checking and your savings account that are in the same bank app, but you can also send money instantly with Zelle, it says. So you just punch in your information on there, and you can also, with a lot of these banks, instead of going to the Zelle app itself, I recently linked mine to a US Bank account. So US Bank, they have Zelle in their app. So when I tried to send money on the Zelle app itself, they said, oh, your account that you've linked is you have to go through your bank. So I just go in my bank app, punch in what I want to send, and it still sends it with Zelle, but it's just integrated directly into that bank. Yeah, go ahead, Tom.
And I believe it's only connected to one bank account. You can't have Zelle from this place and that place.
Right, yeah, yeah, what you gotta do with Zelle is, you can change it later on if you want to, but you really only link your Zelle with one account at a time. So like your phone number, whatever your phone number is, you need to tell it which account right now that it's associated with. So like, mine used to be with my investing account, so when people would send me money, it would go straight into my investing account. But then I recently changed it to my US Bank account, so when people send me money, it just instantly goes in there. I pull up my app from US Bank and it's just moving, the money's in there like immediately. So that's the big benefit there, is that it's direct bank integration. Fast transfers with funds typically available within minutes, and there's no fees. They typically don't charge fees, probably saying that because, you're probably a change in the future. But right now, Zelle has no fees for any sort of payments that you're gonna do, and it's immediate. Because the banks are trying to circumvent all those other folks who are getting into this transfer space. They're like, let's just do it ourselves, and we'll all play nice. We'll play nice with each other and not charge any fees for it. Yeah, go ahead.
So where do they get their money if they don't charge?
They're just trying to keep the money in the banks. If I put all my money in Cash App,
Ordered by the bank.
yeah, so the banks are like, we wanna keep everybody's money. And they see all these millennials and these Gen Z kids just getting Cash App and never going to Wells Fargo, never going to a credit union, anything like that. So this is just a benefit, this is something that bolsters their, that's the reason why they have this service right now. Yeah, and then, what else they're probably doing is they're probably tracking who's sending what, and then they're selling that.
Yeah.
They're saying, oh, men between the ages of 35 and 40 are sending, an average of $150 a month, and they put the comments that it was for, landscaping, and, it's probably exactly what's happening as well. So there is the cons to Zelle, depending on how you look at it again, is there's very limited features. You log in and it's like, as soon as you turn on the app, it says, do you want to pay somebody or do you want to request money? And that's all you can see. That's the only thing the app can do, is it can send and receive money. You can't invest with it, you can't get Bitcoins, you can't do anything else. That's all you can do, is send and receive money. And then a con, again, it's bank dependency, depending on how you look at that. If you're not somebody who's fond of banks, then it's not gonna really be helpful for you. If you just want to deal exclusively in digital currency and in your Cash App's bank account, then Zelle's not gonna be helpful for you because they don't necessarily jive as much. You have to have a bank account in order for it to work. All right, go ahead. All right, next we're going to touch on Apple Cash, and more specifically, first I want to point out the difference between Apple Cash, Apple Pay, Apple Wallet. There's a whole bunch of different stuff. I know a lot of us probably have iPhones because it's the easiest one. I know that's why I have it. It works well. So Apple Cash has features very similar to all these other ones we've talked about. As long as you have money in Apple Cash or in your Apple Cash account, you can send money to somebody or you can receive money. And it's very, very quick. It's just as quick as Zelle, I would say, in my experience. But the difference is it's not going from my bank account to somebody else's bank account. These are straight from the bank, This one, it goes from my Apple Cash to someone else's Apple Cash. And then you have to deposit that Apple Cash into your account. Or you can use Apple Pay and use that Apple Cash to just pay for something straight at the store. So if I had $10 in my Apple Cash account and I wanted to just buy, some pasta sauce and spaghetti at the store, because my daughter eats it every single night for dinner, and I ran out, and I didn't go to the store yesterday to get some, but I have $10 in my Apple Cash. Let's go to Safeway over here, scan my phone, and bada bing, bada boom, I've done it, and nothing had to come in or out of my bank account for me to do that. So Apple Pay, in addition to being able to pay with Apple Cash, Apple Pay is where you can use your phone, you can upload credit cards, all your credit cards to it, mostly, all of them nowadays support it. You just put in your credit card information, you push a button on your phone and either scan your fingerprint, scan your face, or put in your password. And then you can just touch your phone to the little swiper thing, they say you can tap, if you guys have seen that nowadays. You just tap your phone on that, and it'll go ding, and then your payment's made. So you can, and there's tons of different stuff you can load on there. And then all of those things that you can use for Apple Pay, you load up in your Apple Wallet. So your wallet is what holds your credit cards and several other things. We'll touch on those in a second. Let's go to the next slide. So Apple Cash, you can send and receive money via messages. So if you're familiar with the Messages app, if you go to send a text message to another iPhone user, has to be somebody else with an iPhone, if you click the little plus button on the side of your text, then one of the things will say send money or send cash. You click that, and then you type in how much money you want to hit, you hit the send button, just like you would hit on a text message, and it sends them their money. I'm going to do some examples for anybody who wants to see it later. I have a friend who's willing to send and receive money. We'll see if I get it back. All right, so Apple Cash is, you can use it to secure or to use contactless Apple Pay purchases. Like I said, you got to run to the store. You can share funds with your family members and friends by sending it to them. You can get cashback rewards. So Apple Cash is something that you can earn. You have your credit cards to give you cash back. If you have an Apple credit card, which they have, there's an Apple credit card. Any purchase that you make with your Apple credit card, you get 1% cash back, and that comes to you via Apple Cash. Or if you use Apple Pay to use your Apple card, you'll get 2% cash back because they want everybody to start encouraging the stores to implement that. And then if you purchase anything directly from Apple, like you download a song, get a new iPhone, get a new MacBook, any of those things, you get 3% cash back. But anyhow, not that I'm trying to sell you on Apple. Just letting you know. But you get those things as Apple Cash. And then you can transfer your Apple Cash, any Apple Cash you have. If you want to send it to your bank account, you can send it to your bank account. All you have to do is put in your bank account information in the app, and then you just say, how much do you want to transfer? And $5, $10, $100, whatever. And then you can transfer that over. All right, next slide. So Apple Pay, like I was saying, this guy has his credit card loaded up on here, and he just touches his phone and does it. It's contactless, so you don't have to be touching things and mucking up your fingers. Second factor authentication, so that means you have to scan your face or any of those things, even if your phone's unlocked. You have to scan your face or use your fingerprint or know your passcode in order to use this payment. It's stored securely, fully encrypted enclave, as they call it, but that just essentially means that any of the stuff that you're saving on your device is actually encrypted before it actually goes anywhere, and they have to get that specific key from Apple in order to receive your payment information. Your card information is actually never shared with the store, so the store can't just go back through their machine and see, let's say you had somebody nefarious who worked at a store, and they wanted to go through and steal your credit card information. They couldn't even do it if you used Apple Pay. And that's even if you used your credit card on Apple Pay. They send them different information for them to process the transaction. The card numbers are tokenized with every purchase. So every single purchase, they get a different number, and they have to make sure, and Apple says, what's the number? And they say, it's this number, and they say, oh, okay, you're good. So it's very, very secure. And then you can also disable, if your phone is ever lost, you can log into the computer with your Apple login, and you can deactivate all those cards from anywhere. So that in case somebody knows in case somebody has a picture of your face that perfectly matches and they can scan it, you can deactivate it from anywhere. So that's a nice feature as well. All right, next slide. All right, Apple Wallet, touched on that a little bit as well, but you can upload credit cards, debit cards, Apple Cash. You can also upload, and maybe you guys know this as well, boarding passes, train tickets. I've done that, I've flown a few times since I got an iPhone. And if you get your boarding pass emailed to you, it says, do you want to put it in your Apple Wallet? And then I know that it's, if I say yes, all you have to do, at least on my phone, you push the power button twice, even if it's off. They'll scan your face, and then you can go through all your debit cards where your boarding pass is right there. It's right there, just 2 button presses. You're not going through your emails, or, you're not trying to find a screenshot that you took, or, you don't have to lose a paper copy. It's just right there. Boom, boom, you push it, it's right there. So you can do that for boarding passes. Same thing for sporting events. My wife and I go to the Nutcracker every year, and you can get that uploaded to your wallet as well. So you just boop, boop, swipe through, scan it, swipe through, scan it. It's super, super simple. Down here, it says school IDs, and then it says gift cards, rewards cards. Just about everybody's trying to get on this Apple thing, because 50% of the market is Apple phones, so they're really trying to get that going. So you can upload all kinds of different things to your Apple Wallet. So that's how that's different from Apple Cash and Apple Pay and all that. All right, next. Oh yeah, all this talk about apples reminds me of a joke. What's next? If you have 10 apples in one hand and 13 apple pies in the other hand, what do you have? Really big hands. I told that joke to a friend of mine, Mary Lee, this morning, and she said, I don't know, probably some Dr. Seuss looking hands. I thought that was pretty funny. All right, what's next? I think that's about it. Yeah, so, I thought I'd change this color so you could read it better. I thought I made that black, but what are you gonna do? All right, so, and in conclusion, there's a lot of benefits, probably just as many drawbacks to the peer-to-peer payment applications. So explore them with caution, but enjoy the benefits as well, that convenience, that ease, and, being able to find more people that are willing to do things for you or whatever, if you just send them a little dough. All right. Does anybody have any questions?
I do.
Yeah.
So if you have like a small business, like a crafting business,
Mhm.
and you wanna sell, can one of these apps that they use a credit card, or is all of this phone to phone?
So they can use their credit card information. They have to put that on their phone, if that answers your question. So, and all of these ones that I talked about are all phone. If you wanted to have someone hand you a physical card, you would have to have like Square or one of those.
Do you
But-
know how that works? Square?
Yeah, so that's very similar. So those ones there's definitely a lot of fees for Square. I don't know what they are exactly. There's a lot of fees probably for you, and then potentially some of them you can pass on to the person who's doing the actual purchase. But Square is definitely more targeted towards business users. And so if you wanted to start a small business for crafts or for art or whatever that might be, then you can get that, and you can then accept people's cards. But in addition to fees for using it, I think there's also a monthly subscription that you have to pay to use the service, if you're gonna do that, yeah.
Thank you.
But, yeah, you bet.
So I would like you just to repeat this little story about Zelle and passing money by messaging or texting.
Sure.
Like if I had grandchildren and I wanted to send them money
Mhm.
on a trip,
Yeah,
and I have their phone number, and I text them and I say, what do I do there?
well, so what you would do is you would actually, in that instance, you would either do one of two things. You would either go through the Zelle app itself, or you would go through your bank's app and go to the Zelle section.
Okay.
And then you just say, what phone number do you want to send it to? And how much do you want to send? And that's all you have to do. Yeah, go ahead.
So if you go to your bank, you don't have to have the Zelle on your phone.
Correct.
Ah.
Yeah.
Opens up so.
Yeah, so take a look at your bank account and click on the transfers section on your bank's app.
Yeah.
And if they say instant transfers or external transfers, most of them should, if not all, should have a Zelle section. Like I use mostly credit unions and they even use Zelle. So look for that Zelle section, and I can, so I have my phone and I can at least show people, if you're interested, I can show you transfers with both Apple Cash and with Zelle, because those are the ones that I that I use. So kind of like we said, I don't use Venmo, so I can't show you that. But if anybody wants to stick around and I can show you on my actual phone, I can do a couple transfers.
So then what happens again on the other end?
So what's gonna happen on their end is if they have a Zelle account already set up, they'll get a text that they got a deposit, and then it'll be in their bank account. They don't have to do anything. They don't even have to accept it.
But if they don't have someone.
If they don't have a Zelle account, they'll have a text that says, grandma sent you some Christmas cat, whatever your message, if you want, you can send a message with it too. So it'll say, grandma sent you $20, and then it'll say, it's associated with your phone number, so log into Zelle, and then you can put in your bank account information, and it'll be deposited for you. Yeah. So that's the key thing, whoever you send it to has to have a bank account with Zelle. They can't, so like Apple Cash, I don't necessarily have to have a bank account. It just goes onto like a virtual currency, or it's just on my phone as like a gift card balance that I can use at a store. But with Zelle, they have to have a bank account, so they can link that bank information and then it'll be deposited in their account as soon as they put it in. Yeah. So. Any other questions? If anybody, like I said, if anybody's interested in seeing some transfers, I can do that too, but I don't have a way to put that up here very easily. So I would have to show you just on my phone. We can huddle around and have fun, All right, anybody think of anything else you have any questions on? All right, let's conclude our meeting. Anyway.
Thank you, Tony. Always a treat to have Tony present to us. We really appreciate the relationship Watermark has with Sunflower. We appreciate all you do for us. Thank you for your time. Great class, don't you agree?
Yes.
I'm sure we'll all use it. If you have any relationships with anyone under 40 that wants money, you're gonna learn this stuff, I tell you, because that's all they do. Give them receipt, and it is free. It's usually the bank, if the bank can keep your money for 2 nights, they make enough money to pay that fee they're charging. That's why it's free if you'll wait a day or two to get it deposited. Renters pay rent with it all the time if they're under 30 hours. Apple Pay, whatever. If you get it, you can get it instantly, but they'll charge you 2 or 3%. If you wait 3 days, 3 to 5 days, it's usually 3, they won't charge you. So the fees are usually based on how long they keep your money. And that's how they still make their money, because nobody does anything for free.
So hold it. So when you say they keep your money, so if I transfer it to my son,
Mhm.
and what,
Depending on the app, if you use Zelle, it's free.
okay.
But Zelle is bank to bank. It's a service the bank
Right.
provides.
So,
And correct me if I'm wrong.
I'm confused about how long they keep it.
Okay,
Who
Apple,
keeps what, when?
let me give you my practical application. I have a renter who pays me with Apple Pay. She texts me her rent payment every month, hopefully on time. I get a message. She said, it looks like a message in my messaging. It says, your renter has sent you $1,500. You click on it, then you choose. You can put it in Apple Cash. You can deposit it in an account that you have set up. I deposit to the account, then it'll give me 2 options. You want it now, and it'll give you how much it's gonna charge you. I never do it, so I can't even remember what the charge is. But it'll tell you right then. If you want it now, you can have it. But you will pay us 5, 10, 15, 1%, 2%. Or they give you a check box to have an option. Will you wait 3 to 5 days to receive your money? You check that and it's free. And 3 days later, you see it show up in your account.
Got it.
So that's, it always amazed me. My wife was a controller and she worked for a company that made money by just holding money overnight and giving it to the bank and taking it back in the morning for working. Yeah. How much money is made overnight in banking is phenomenal, but that's why they do it for free. Nobody does it for free, but they're holding your money and they're using that money to collect interest overnight, and that's enough to pay that fee. Okay, that's the mechanics of it.
Okay, thank you.
Okay. Again, Tony, thank you.
Thank you, Tony.
If you want to, you're gonna stay a few minutes if they have questions. If not, Thanks for coming. See you next month. Join us Sunday for the tax actions.
All right, last joke. Who's ready to, who wants to send me $100 to see how it works?
How are you?
$2 on bill.
You did?